Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where we talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Killjoys. Another great episode. A lot of very interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. First and foremost, let's start off with the Zeph stuff. I really like that, kind of learning a lot more about her past and kind of understanding how the group she comes from, the Madeline's, work. That whole situation. Understanding that actually at one point in time, they were like some of the leading scientists out there. But because investors took their research and their science and did terrible things with it, they kind of turned their eye away from science like that. It's actually interesting how we learned that, because we learned that from Fancy, which Dutch and Zeph are like, wait, what? And he's like, I like to read. In particular, I like history. I'm like, that's interesting. And then Zeph's like, who is Fancy? And Dutch is like, I have no idea. I love that even at this point in the series, Fancy shows himself to be the major enigma, because we literally don't know anything about Fancy. We never, him and Turn, I feel like the only characters we really never learned too much about. I mean, we kind of learned bits and pieces about Turn, but Fancy, once again, continues to be the enigma. I love that. But I love that just being a bit. But we also understand, like, one of the main reasons why Zeph ended up leaving in the first place was the whole situation of basically because she used science to basically point out, like, oh, wait, there's this, their grains were messed with, because she ended up burning down the grainer. And it's like, wait, whoa. Because even Dutch was like, whoa, okay, so that's pretty hardcore. But it's like because it had been tainted and she was trying to save everybody's life, but because she used science to figure it out, because they're all about prayer and, they don't, like I said, they cast aside science. So it's extremely blasphemous what she did. So the plan was, like, to punish her was to basically marry her off to, like, her second cousin, which is like, okay, that's nuts. And they do land, and then Dutch is like, wait, what do you mean I can't take my guns with you? Because Zeph is like, they don't like guns, violence, and all that. And she's like, that's literally like 87% of who I am, yet I still manage to have friends. So it's like, why they gotta demonize me because of that? I also love the first person they met was Zaya, Zeph's sister. Now that was interesting, learning their dynamic too. I'm skipping around here, but I thought it was kind of interesting that at the end when Zaya and Dutch were fighting, she was like, we're gonna see who's the better sister. So I think it's interesting because in some shape or form, she still loves her sister regardless of all the stuff that Zeph's turned against her ways and stuff like that. She still loves her and kind of looks up to her. And, it's so interesting to me because I think it's because no matter what the circumstances may be, that's still your sister. So, like, she says all this stuff of, like, she should be dead, she should be punished, and blah, blah, blah. I think it's because there's some part of you that wants her back home. You want her back in your life, I think. Which I don't know. Because I think just the fact that she went out of her way to say that line specifically shows me that there's still something there. It's not like it's not like Zeph is completely dead to her or something, It's also interesting learning. Like, I love, Dutch being like, let me handle diplomacy. She's like, what? I can handle the diplomacy. Zeph is like, I've done all this. And, you have Dutch being like, well, you have a tendency to be kind of like, I'm right, you're wrong. It's just like, I am right. I am always right. So why is that such a problem? And it's like, oh, you haven't changed. She's like, I totally have changed because I saved the freaking world. Well, from one alien, and then another alien took over. But that's why we're here right now. Even the whole Great Mother thing is like, Great Mother, the lady. Why can't all the bad bitches just be like Alice or Gretchen? But I love how, like, menacing it look. It's like, oh my God, is she going to be, is the Great Mother going to be the type of person that beats or tortures? Like, what's going to go on? And she pulls out some bars and she's like, oh, you want something to eat? And it's like, wait, what? But then it turns out, oh, she drugged him anyway. But getting back to it was like her talking about the fact is that Zaya has kind of lived in her sister's shadow. And she's like, what? What do you mean? Like, she was the good sister. I'm the freak. But then the Great Mother was like, yeah, but history always remembers the freaks, the people who go against the grain. Because even regardless of everything she did, the fact is, it's like the Great Mother's like, you loved us so much that you were willing to break our rules to save our lives. And that speaks volumes. And I thought that was kind of neat. I was like, oh, maybe she can be reasoned with. But then she poisons them and, knocks them out. And, I love that Pip scene. It's kind of, well, it wasn't the Pip that we know, but I think it was still kind of nice because even during, it's her having a baby and stuff like that. It's a combination of her, being back home and everything and what that represents and the life that she would have led if she had stayed behind. But then having Pip kind of reflecting that the person she cares about most, reflecting that. She's like, Pip wouldn't say all this stuff about, hey, like, if I had stayed, I'd still be alive. And he's like, then what would I say? And that was kind of her subconscious showing her Pip being like, no, like, Pip representing her subconscious kicking her ass to be like, no, don't let them kick you down anymore. But it's sad, like the pit she was in, she was constantly thrown in there, so that's why she freaked out. She even talked about it at one point. She was locked in there for like 3 months. They were punishing her, so it's sad. But I like, Dutch. I love that thing of like, you be the brains, I be the brawn. And it's like, oh, we definitely got to put that on a t-shirt. And they literally had those as t-shirts at the end of the episode. I'm like, how much time you jumped on that super damn quick. I love that. I didn't even notice it till the last minute. I was like, I saw Dutch's shirt first. I was like, wait, what? And then it cuts to Zeph. I was like, I'm like, they literally did that. I love that. That was so good. But I also thought it was kind of interesting too, because a great mother had this perspective of being like, I wanted you to take over. Like, that's why because of your mind, you are carrying over what our ancestors had. Their minds are all inside you. I wanted you to stay here so that you can, be my successor. It's like, you're always my favorite and stuff like that, so. But, for Zeph, it's like, a friend told me that you guys wouldn't understand me. And, if you don't know me, if you think that I would turn my back on my family. And it's like, yeah, she's not going to leave her family, this new, better family she went out there and found, She had talked about that before. So I thought that was pretty. I even love the fact that she was like, I love it wasn't necessarily like, I'll miss you. I'll miss your baking, because I guess that was kind of like one of the good sides to this whole situation. So her and Dutch get out of there. I love the like sisterly bond that they have, because Dutch is kind of like, I understand the whole like, your sister kind of wanting to kill you thing. I've kind of been through that too. It's like, right, whole complicated thing with Anila. But at the same time, it's like, I love them kind of establishing it's like Zeph and Dutch sisters. I'm like, oh, that's so good. I can't help it. This family dynamic keeps growing. And I think that makes, Pre either kind of like a brother or maybe one of the uncles. I think Turin and Pre kind of act as kind of the crazy uncles in this family. I think so. I mean, he acts as uncle. Well, he's more the crazy, grouchy, literal Uncle Scrooge. I think is kind of how you could put Turin as. So, but nevertheless, it's just this family dynamic keeps changing, and I'm loving it. So. I did like how the tapestry looked and how it was kind of weaved together like that. I was legitimately expecting a legitimate tapestry, but it's like, right, her people are scientists and whatnot, or originally were. So, of course, like all the knowledge they've gathered all this time would be in the form of like something sciencey like that. So, cutting to the other side of things where we have, because at first you have Davin and Johnny trading prisoners. I'm like, what the hell is this up for? Oh, you're literally playing a game of capture the flag, because it's supposed to be training for this whole operation and everything. And I love like, all right, I get Calvert. It's like, why do you get Calvert? So that whole situation. I even love the whole thing of like, because the doctor was against like, the prisoners and stuff like that. It's like they've done terrible stuff. Johnny's like, look at me and Dad. We did plenty of terrible stuff before we became Killjoys, and look at us. We're goddamn heroes now. We're goddamn heroic. And then him and Davin high five each other for him. Like, it's so good. And I also love that the entire episode, Davin's trying to hook Johnny up, because it's like, for one, I skipped over it. That beautiful scene of Johnny waking up in his pajamas so happy. He's just all over the place. I'm like, you literally know everyone's still on the ship. And he literally walks by everyone. He doesn't give a shit. And he's just like all happy and everything. And then, you have Lucy being like, oh, that tickles. And they're just having so much fun. And then the warden's like, what the hell? How high is he? It's like, well, the bond, nothing can compare to the bond between a nerd and his ship. And asking, are you single? And, because I was like, wait, what? I was like, are you trying to hook Johnny up with the warden? I was kind of wondering if that was a thing. And then he does it with Calvert, too. It's like, she's like, whoa, are you trying to he's like, whoa, no. And she's like, I mean, I could do the whole couple thing, except we just have to lay some ground rules when it comes to the rough play, because your girlfriend is not a gentlewoman. I love that. So that was pretty neat. He's like, I'm a terrible wingman. I just love that he's setting that up the entire episode. It was kind of interesting. Like, I figured things would have to be like, I figured it had to be the doc pretty early on when it was like those patients. It's like, oh, they're not like, heavily medicated. They're straight up dead. I was like, it's the doctor. He's actually the one that killed the guard because the guard caught him doing what he was doing. And it turns out, yeah. But all Mason did was steal the gun. Mace stole the gun off of him, but that was it. It's actually kind of twisted, because in his twisted mind he actually thinks he's doing, because he's like, oh, this whole rehabilitation, like therapy and stuff like that, for him it's bullshit. They're monsters, even though we're literally dealing with monsters on Westerly. Like, for him it's like, this is a greater threat here than that. It's like, I think you should take priorities. I think it, because that's where everyone else's priorities are. Like, oh, we take care of that Wesley thing, did we kind of figure this out? But it's like, oh, letting loose these maniacs is going to be worse. You can understand to a certain extent his mindset on it, but at the same time you're like, because our trio of heroes aren't necessarily the best of people. Once again, let's not forget, Dutch was an assassin. She was literally trained to be one and everything, so it's not like she's got the best resume. So that's why I kind of chalk that up too. And like I said, Johnny talked about him and Davin have done stuff beforehand, so so. But I did like that Calvert was the one, she threw the flag and stabbed him with it. And she like, see, Mace was right. My visits to the psych ward actually helped. It actually gave me a little bit of a tolerance to all of this, so she didn't get knocked out. I did like her speech though, kind of being a little loopy though. But it did take Johnny kind of like slapping them in their faces, like Mace and Calvert being like, the fact of the matter is, how are you going to get anyone to trust you if you kind of turn on each other, even right now during a trial run of this whole situation. So I like that a lot. I also love the situation of like, them all together, the warden, Calvert, Mace, Fancy cooking, and then he's definitely like, am I in love with Fancy? And Johnny's like, yo, back off. I love that whole thing too. I even love that, Davin admitted that he's going to, he's been trying, the wingman thing for Johnny, and they're messing around and stuff, because like for him, it's like, he wants Johnny to find love. He wants him to have that. Like, obviously he hasn't had that since Potter, So he wants that. He wants his brother to be happy. So that's why he's playing matchmaker in this episode. And I also love when Johnny was like, wait. So did the warden or, Calvert say anything about me now that you're saying that? Because he was saying like, all right, we'll go on a double date. Johnny was like, you'll pick the movie, Dav, but Pre gets to pick who I get to date. I'm curious to see if anything will happen with that. Like the warden or Calvert. Probably not. But that's such a heartwarming thing. And it's so beautiful. Dutch is like, this right here, this family, this us being together is the why the lady will lose, because we have each other, she has no one. Now that heavily ties into her story. I like the fact that she snapped and killed everyone because Fancy got away, and it's like it all went to shit because you weren't here. But her body starts giving up, and Klein is trying to kill her because Turin was kind of like, if Dutch is dead, don't you think you should owe it to her to put the lady down, But he even tells her that story and stuff about the star who forgot that she wasn't human, and just to prove to the other stars that she was still as cold as she was before, she killed a whole bunch of humans. And I thought that was such an, obviously the whole point was to make parallels. I even love her being like, I want you to tell me a story. Like, I was like, there's little things here and there where I'm like, oh, I'm not getting this. Even the point is, she's like, oh, I that's why I like you the most, Klein, because you're not afraid of me. It's like everything was hinting to where it all ends up going. He gets ready to kill her, but she was like, I don't get it. I manipulated you into doing all of this, I did this and that. And the fact of the matter is, I literally did exactly what you did with Yala, and she still loved you, so why don't you love me? And I'm like, oh my God. She loves Klein. She wants him to, she's imprinted on him. Like, that's so twisted, and I love it in the sense that like I would have never thought that. I mean, maybe there's going to be something that comes about the whole Madeline situation of like they, the Great Mother was like, oh, you can't wipe out another species, even though this species is trying to wipe us out. Maybe there's going to be something to that. Like, obviously, we're still Lucy was still deciphering through the tapestry, trying to find out the history on the lady and her species, but I think it's just like Klein's story says, she's forgotten that she's not human, and she's actually kind of growing a bit of a heart, and it's like she wants Klein to love her, even to the point she's like, I can give you more than either of your daughters could give you. I will give you an entire galaxy. It's like she's doing all this to impress him. It's so crazy to see that dynamic. It's changed, but her time, Klein is the first human she's spent a lot of time with. She's been alone inside of the green for so long. After losing all her people, she's the last. So all she had was the green, but that was all just memories. Now she's out there. She's made a human connection. Like, being in a human so long has made her more human. Now the question then becomes, is the lady going to survive all of this? Is she going to grow a heart like Anila did? Because Anila did. And you can even say Dulcea. And I think they're prime examples of people who are evil growing hearts. Even Klein. Like, Klein did a lot of questionable stuff, but in his twisted way, it was out of love. So I'm so curious. Or could this be part of Klein's idea of, like, she's becoming more human? I'm gonna wait till she becomes human, and then this whole plan is going. I'm so curious. We still got 2 episodes left. I'm so curious to see how this is all gonna play out, especially because she has something to fight for now. Like, obviously, like, Klein is still under the impression, you know, Dutch is dead, but then he finds out she's alive. That's probably going to tick off the lady, and she's probably going to go back to being the quote-unquote star, no longer pretending to be human anymore. That's what I'm thinking, but I'm so interested to see ultimately where this all ends up taking us going forward into the next episode, especially with that whole angle of things. She's still going to conquer things, but she's more Anila now than anything, which I think is going to be interesting, especially when everyone officially gets together, when this family is fully together, you know? Because even to the point she didn't want to get rid of this body, because I think, well, it's also because she has an attachment to it, but it's also like, I want you to look at me like you look at one of your daughters. It's, you know, such an interesting development. It's like neither one of my daughters is around, but the thing is, like, well, did someone else help Anila? Because did he not? Well, no, because she said her dad, like, put her in that cube. So it's like, but I guess it's like, well, she's locked up somewhere. He doesn't know that Jack and Dulcea got to her. So it's like both his daughters, well, one's gone, the other one's locked away, but I can't get to her and she can't get to me. So she's just as good as lost. Maybe that's his thought, but it was just so interesting that he was kind of like, his 2 daughters were his guiding star and now they're gone. So I'm so interested. Like I said, this family dynamic gets crazier and crazier, even here at the end, you know, so I'm very interested to see where the next episode takes us with all of this. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.